Good morning, everyone. How was our weekend? Mr. Boswell, Mr. Timothy, good morning.
Morning, ma'am. How are you?
Morning, ma.
Yeah, good morning. How was your weekend? Hope you had a pleasant weekend.
Yeah, I had a good weekend. Just that in Zoom here with the blackout.
Oh,
Yeah, sure, but we are back to normal now.
okay.
Thanks. Sure.
Yeah, thank you. So we go straight to today's session. Today is week 2 for our sustainable biodiversity management training. And in this session, it's going to be 1.5 hours like we did last week. And today's session, we're going to have a run through the agenda for today's session. First thing is to welcome, and we'll do an ice break very soon. And then what are the programs aligned for today? The sequence. Sequence 1, we have the impact of agricultural practices on biodiversity. Sequence 2, we have biodiversity at farm level. And sequence 3, we have extent and precision level of biodiversity assessments. After this, we're going to have a short break for us to stretch our legs. Then we'll move on to the question and answer time. After the question and answer time, we will quickly navigate through module 2 like we did on Thursday for us to see the assignment and the work activities that we need to do this week. Then after that, we close, and if there are any further questions, participants are free to ask this question. So this is the agenda for today, and this is how we plan to run. Like I said, we're going to stick to the time, and then we're going to work according to time. Thank you, Mr. Ignatius, for coming. Good morning. So permit me to share my screen, and then we will do a quick ice break. Can we all see my screen, please? Mr. Timothy, Mr. Boswell.
Yes,
okay.
Yes,
Okay, so my question to you is, if you could have one superpower today, what will it be and for what purpose? What will your superpower be and for what purpose? Over to you, Mr. Boswell. 1 minute. Your question, you have to answer in 1 minute. Straight to the point.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. One superpower. I would think God with the superpower because he reigns supreme. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Timothy, over to you. If you have one superpower today, what would it be and for what purpose? What purpose will you use the superpower for? Over to you, 1 minute. Mr. Timothy, over to you.
Yeah. I'm here.
Yeah.
Superpower. I think I would like to have the power of raising the dead, like
okay.
because of those we have missed, our loved ones, if you can just bring them back to the world.
Yeah.
I think this world will be a better place.
Okay, that's very good to note. Okay, Mr. Chinedu, how was your weekend? If you have one superpower today, what will it be and for what purpose, please? Over to you, Mr. Chinedu. Unmute yourself, please. You have 1 minute to answer this question.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chinedu.
It's a dicey one actually, but I think if I have that power, one thing I will want is the power to just do whatever I want, as at when I want it.
That's very good one. So the ice break is just for us to relax and to think and about abstract things and to imagine what it will look like. So it's just for us to relax and reflect on things that is not really biodiversity and to think deep. Thank you very much for your contribution to the ice break. And then over to you, Mr. Ayo. I'll stop sharing the screen now. Thank you.
All right. I want to welcome you all again. And also allowing me for that wonderful ice break. I hope we all enjoy it. So permit me to share my screen now. Okay. And if you can all see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Can you all see my screen, please?
Yes, we can.
All right, thank you. Okay, thank you very much. All right, I'll be taking us through impact of agriculture on biodiversity. And okay, so I'll be taking us through impact of agriculture on biodiversity. And this will be our objective, overall objective for this training course. Number one is to understand the influence of agricultural practices on biodiversity. Two is to know how and why we access biodiversity at farm level. Three is to evaluate the different types of biodiversity, which include landscape, scale, time scale, and the likes. Then four is to know the biodiversity indicators. And the last but not least is to compare biodiversity evaluation methods. We're going to cover objectives 1 to 3 today, and manner is, these are the methodology we are going to use. The training is just will last for 15 minutes, like Allow me said, and we're going to have a brainstorming session where we engage a participatory approach. Of course, we are also going to have a breakout session, and we're going to have to use WorkLab. Okay. Having done that, I'm going to play a video where we can all watch, and from there we proceed.
Hi, this is Kate from Minute Earth.
May I know if you can hear the sound of the video?
Yes, we can hear.
All right, good.
1,000 years ago, we humans came up with a revolutionary new idea for how to feed ourselves. Agriculture. Plow land, plant a crop, water, fertilize, harvest, and repeat each year. And today, we're pretty much still doing the same thing as 10,000 years ago. Thanks to the Industrial Revolution, we are producing much larger quantities of food than we used to, but we are also putting far more resources into producing food than we used to. As a result, water levels in the world's largest aquifers are falling faster than they're being replenished. Our underground supply of phosphorus, a nutrient critical to plant photosynthesis, will be exhausted in a few hundred years. And we're using up the very ground itself, since soil blows and washes off of our fields 50 times faster than it forms. We can extend the life of these inputs with resource-saving techniques like precision farming and technologies like gene editing. But it's likely that no amount of retrofitting our 10,000-year approach to farming will make it work for billions of people for the next 10,000 years. So what are future humans going to do about dinner? One possibility is to switch to a food-making system where resources get recycled rather than depleted. Radical as it sounds, this kind of system already exists all around us in nature, where sunlight is the only major energy input, and ecosystems comprised of many different coexisting plants and critters cycle nutrients and water within the system, or use resources at a rate equivalent to how much is coming in. We have started taking some cues from natural ecosystems, like interspersing crops with trees to encourage a healthy habitat for pollinators and pest controllers, and by changing the crops themselves. For example, we've begun to develop perennial forms of wheat, rice, and other grains that can live through many harvests, unlike traditional grains, which we have to plow and replant every year. The idea is to eventually grow the new grains alongside a variety of other long-lived plants in self-sustaining ecosystems that keep hold of soil, water, and nutrients. If we could manage to do this for all of our food, it would be qualitatively different from any other way humans have grown food on a large scale. Not quite hunting and gathering, not plant harvest repeat, but a sort of futuristic blend between.
Okay, we've all watched the video and we saw what happened in that video, which I believe virtually everyone followed. Now, one of the things you will observe about the video is about the growing population, and it's about the agitation to meet with the food consumption rate of the growing population. And how we want to ask now that from your own past experience, what do you think are agricultural practices that are responsible for biodiversity loss? We all understand what biodiversity loss is. So what are those what are those activities we do on our farm that you think could impair biodiversity? So I'm going to, you can just send a chat. Or paraventure, let me send the link now so that you can just, if you are using any, and then so you can start sending your responses. Let me unshare my screen. Permit me to unshare my screen now. Okay. All right, so you can mute yourself and just say what you think is the agricultural practices that we engage in that are possible causing biodiversity loss. Okay. Okay, I'll be able to send the link now. Okay. So I've sent the link to everyone. Put the link on your browser, and whatever you, this is what we do on our farm that are still able to cause biodiversity loss. You can just send them. Okay, is anyone going first? Let me start calling names now. Bafo, can you hear me, please? Okay, Boswa.
Yes, I'm hearing you.
Okay, what are those agricultural practices we do on the farm that are causing biodiversity loss?
I think guys, maybe uncontrolled disposal of chemical waste or uncontrolled burning
that's
of chemical containers.
Okay. All right,
Yeah.
that's very correct. That's very correct. Over to Bafo. Do you have any idea of the activities we conduct on our farm and you think can impair biodiversity loss? Okay, over to you, Chinedu. If Chinedu is hearing me. Okay, we will still have to move from there. Okay, is someone talking?
No. Yeah, this Chinedu. My network.
Can
Hello?
you hear
Okay.
me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hello?
Yes.
Yes, we
Chinedu.
can hear you.
Okay, in order for us to save time, let me quickly continue. We're still going to get to that question as soon as possible, but you can keep typing in your responses and the responses will be read out. The responses will be read out. So I'm going to take on sequence 1, the impact of agricultural practices on biodiversity. Okay, under that, we're going to know the agricultural practices which have direct impacts on biodiversity. Then we know the solution to reducing those impacts on agriculture with respect to biodiversity. So what are those things that we do, or what are those things that cause, what are those practices that have direct impact on biodiversity?
Hello, Hayo, can you remove your video? Can you remove your video?
What exactly do we do
to make
when
it
what
strong?
are those things that are involved in intensification of farming? I've already noted them here. Number 1 is increase in the
Hello, Hayo. Can you remove your video to make it strong, to make your network strong? Hello? Can we hear me? Mr. Boswell, can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, I'm hearing you clearly.
Okay.
I'm hearing you clearly. Sure.
Okay, we lost connection with Ayo. So I'm just going to step in before Ayo comes back. So with what are the practices that we do that impact on biodiversity? Oh, we lost Ayo totally. So.
Benedict,
Yes,
let me
please.
share my thoughts. Yeah, I believe if we over-rely on equipment.
Okay.
Then again, the use of chemicals, synthetic chemicals, also has direct on biodiversity.
Okay. Yes, you are very correct. So, like Ayo was sharing with us, the first thing is intensification agriculture. What is intensification agriculture? It's boiled down to monocropping, as we have seen, as we do most of the time, then trying to do precision farming, trying to do everything using so much input, so much machineries, so much removing the landscape, the ecosystem, removing all this nature away from the farming area. So we begin to control farming in an intensified way. And these are some of the practices. Mr. Ayo, are you back? Hello, Ayo. Okay, so these are practices that impact on biodiversity. Like I mentioned, destruction of natural habitat, we, in the process of expanding, our farmlands, we want to do more. We want to create, they're saying that we need to feed so number of billions of people in so years to come. The population will increase. So we are all pushing and working hard to engage our agricultural practices to produce more. But the truth of the matter is, we are actually producing enough now. What is the actual problem we have is a lot of waste are in the value chain, from the gate level to the final consumer. A lot of people take foods that they cannot finish, and then they dump them, which other people should have access to. So all these things are causing loss of biodiversity. Then we move on to increase in the size of fields. Like I said, we're expanding the fields. We want to make more money. We want to make more impact. We want to make our farms, our enterprise very big. Yes, they are good visions. Yes, they are good innovation. But when we do this, we are actually impacting on biodiversity if we do not do them in a structural manner, in manners that, as we are expanding, we are also creating more trees, like we have said. We are leaving the border zone. We are creating edges, grass strips. We are planting flowers so that all these other flora and fauna organisms can actually thrive. They can have a place, because when you clear the forest, you are destroying their own habitat, and you need to create another habitat for them. So as you want to expand your farm, you need to leave areas on whereby the habitats, the other wild habitats can also thrive there. Then greater use of fertilizer and pesticide. We know that, especially when you do monocropping, you have to use a lot of synthetic fertilizers and pesticide. Mr. Yo, are you back online?
Yeah, I'm back. Thank you very much.
Okay, you can go on.
All right. So like Olaomi rightly said, there is the increase in the farm size, and that there is reduction in rotation. When you are under agitation of increasing crop production, of course, if there is a major demand, there will be a major demand for a particular crop. Maybe take for instance, maize. Maize is processed, or wheat is processed for many things. It's used for bread, it's used for biscuits. You'll be prompted to use wheat severally. You'll be prompted to produce wheat severally, and as such, you will not take into recognizance the other crops that you need to plant, which will rotate very well in order to keep the ecosystem intact. And of course, while trying to do that, you want to boost your production, and that is when you use fertilizers, and you want to control the pests and diseases. You use pesticides. These are common practices we do when we are growing our farm. And these are what contributes to intensification of farming. So I've created a very simple overview here. What those things that have direct impact on biodiversity. You will see the use of plant protection, plant protection products and herbicides. Like I mentioned, you have several plant protections that are chemical based, and herbicides that are also chemical based. You have application of fertilizers. You have soil tillage, you have mechanization of harvest, you have crop water management, and you have irrigation. All these things have direct impact on biodiversity, and these are what we engage in when we grow our crops. So you will realize that for all of these things we have mentioned, we have the farmer's view. If you look at the farmer's reasoning, what exactly is on farmer's mind when he's using all of these things? You see my cursor now. My cursor is centered on the auction. That is the target of the farmer. The farmer uses intensification. The farmer uses herbicide use. That is the case of fertilizer use. That is mechanized harvest, and there is also soil tillage. All of them are all in an attempt to boost crop production. But actually, what the repercussion, the consequence of all of this action is biodiversity loss. When you put all of this together, you are already impairing the nature. You're already causing biodiversity loss. So, And this is the question. At plot level, is shifting cultivation, does shifting cultivation have impact on biodiversity? What is shifting cultivation? When you plant on a particular land and you move from that land, you move to another place. And like that, continue like that. Does it have direct impact or negative impact on biodiversity? You can just type your answers using yes or no. If you think it has negative impact on biodiversity, just send a yes response or a no response. I hope you got the message, please. Do we got the message? Do we all got the message, please?
Yes, please.
All right. So when you embark on shifting cultivation system, does it have negative impact on biodiversity? Is anybody going first? Is anyone going first? Can allow me, help me call the names.
Mr. Noble, let me call those who have not spoken today.
Okay.
Mr. Noble. Oh, Chinedu says no. Noble says no on the chat.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
No again.
Okay, that's good. So we're having no. Nobody is saying yes. Is there anybody saying yes?
Hello, good morning.
Yeah,
Good morning.
Yes, we can hear you. Please, you can proceed.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yeah, loud and clear.
Okay. Yeah, good morning. I said no.
No. Okay. Yes, there is a perspective to that.
Why I said no that? Why?
Okay.
Yes. Why I said no that it doesn't have a negative impact on the biodiversity.
Okay.
So does it have a negative impact?
Thank you very much. You are all correct. It doesn't have negative impact on biodiversity, and at the same time, we also have impact on biodiversity. If you say yes, you are correct. If you say no, you are also correct. Both are correct. The negative impact it will have on biodiversity is that since that land have already been, the ecosystem on that land has been altered. So the impact will still remain there until after several years when it is left and the ecosystem begins to grow again. But the period of time when it's going to use to grow, the organism, the species that are on that land have already left. So it has an impact on the biodiversity. But in the long run, it will restore biodiversity on the land because once you follow it, of course, it will restore biodiversity. So I'm going to move to the next slide now. So what are the solutions to this impairing of biodiversity? Some of which allow me mentioned last week. So I'm going to quickly run through them. We have the case of integrated pest management, IPM, what we all know to be IPM. What is integrated pest management? Integrated pest management is when you use pesticide or herbicide, as case may be, at a very minimal rate and when it is needful. When it is really, really needful. That
Hello, Mr. Ayo, we lost you again. Can you remove your video so that your network will be stronger? So let me, can everyone hear me? Let me step in again before Mr. Ayo comes, before Ayo comes in. So can we all hear me? Can we signal if you hear me? Can someone, hello, Mr. Boswell? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. I just want to know that you can. Thank you. So integrated pest management. This is using biological control methods with the use of synthetic method. So like you said, when you're using synthetic pesticide in a controlled manner, so they tell you, you buy this product, they say use 10 ml, to fumigate or to control number of acres. If you stick to that prescription given to you and you're not exceeding it. But most of the time, we find that many people proceed. They use more than what they are supposed to use. Then two, they also do it, the prescription is probably every 2 weeks. Someone is like, I have pest issue. I don't want my, my crops to die, or I don't want to lose everything. So they start spraying probably every week. In those processes that we are doing, we are actually impacting on biodiversity. And they are not good processes because we can mitigate it by using a biological control, also by introducing certain elements into the system, and which will help reduce even the use of the synthetic pesticide that we need to use. And that's why last week we were talking about edges, we were talking about grass strips, we are talking about flowers and all these trees that can actually help our system. Then introducing leguminous plants in fallow periods, even in periods whereby in the farm. Now we're talking about, last week talked about agroforestry. There are some leguminous plants that you can have in a row, even on your farm, that when the leaves drops, they're going to fertilize your soil, they're going to decompose and has nutrients back to the soil. So even while the farm is still on, you can plant those leguminous trees. And also, in the time that you want to use to follow a particular area, you want the particular area to rest, you can put leguminous plants there, cover crops. There are different types of cover crops. We have those that are like 5 months, we have those that are 8 months, depending on the environment where you are. You can put those cover crops there, and then they replenish the soil. Some of them even act in forms of nematode. So they help to prevent nematode. So all this as part of what we reduce the impact of biodiversity loss on our farm. Then shallow tilling. This is one area that is very important for farmers to take note of. I see videos, I watch people on farms, how the tractor till the land. You know, some of them are even tilly and they're excited about it. And you see the dust in the air. This is loss of biodiversity when you see dust emanating in the air when you are tilling. Then when you go on a deep surface to your soil, you are actually destroying the soil structure of your farm. And you don't want to destroy the soil structure by plowing. So we say shallow tilling on the surface. It shouldn't be more than 2 to 3 inches. That disc should not penetrate more than 2 to 3 inches in your soil, so that you have minimal disturbance of the soil. Now we are even saying zero tillage and the like. But some soil at the beginning we need particular we will need us to plow. But when we are doing that, we need to teach the guys or anybody that work on our machinery that it is important to go gently. There's no need to rush. There's no need to be in a hurry to do 5 acres. Go gently and be focused while doing this. Hayo, are you back online?
Yeah, I'm back. Thank you, Olaomi. My sincere apologies. So, like Olaomi has rightly explained, shallow tilling. Sometimes we require that you don't till at all, but if you must till, like we have the case of some crops, take for instance, countries where they plant cassava, you just need to till a little bit because they are root crops. And as such, they will need to expand their crops under the root. So it will not be good enough for the crops that are tuber crops to be finding difficult to expand their roots. So you will require to do a tilling. And the tilling you are going to do have to be as shallow as possible so that you will not destroy the soil structure, and as in consequently destroying biodiversity as the case may be. Now, you have the case of ensuring integrated water management. This is very common. Irrigation facility and irrigation application is now everywhere for people that are able to afford it. But some people have forgotten that that is this water level that must not be exceeded. and there is water level that must not be reduced. So where this problem comes in is that when you overflood your land, I mean your crop with water, the crop we are talking about has a minimum water requirement. The ground also have a minimum and maximum water level. So by the time you start overweighting your crop, as the case may be, the impact will be felt on the water level of the soil. And when there is water level increase, of course, the biodiversity system on that land will be destroyed, because just like what people say, excess of everything is too bad. But no, too little of everything is also too bad. Just have to be very, very concise with it. So we require ensuring integrated water management. And how do you do that? You just need to know the water requirement of your crop, the crop you are planting. What exactly is the water requirement? And secondly, you need to know the water level of your land. We have equipment which we can use to know the water level of the land. And once you do that, you will be restoring biodiversity on your piece of land. And we cannot but mention reforesting unproductive areas. We have lands that are just there. Why you leave your land bare? Why can't you can always plant trees there? Put trees there. When you put trees there, they have a lot of things they are doing. They can oxygenate the whole area. You know, some trees, just like Olawumi said, once they fall and when they shed their leaves becomes a source of carbon for the plant to grow. And you know, carbon is a source of energy for any crop at all. So when you embark on all of these five means of reducing biodiversity loss, you are going to have a restoration of biodiversity. So, like we mentioned the other time, we have farmers' perspective, farmer reasoning, and you have global deficit. Now, in this case, you are going to have a global benefit when farmers practice all of this. Everything we have mentioned earlier on, you could see my cursor, it will enhance crop production, even just like what the farmer was intending to do, but damaging biodiversity. Once they embark on everything that we have mentioned, it's going to be about a global benefit and a biodiversity gain. What we mentioned about, IPM, integrated pest management, planting of leguminous crop, shallow tilling when it is required, strictly when it's required, particularly for tuber crops, then integrated water management and reforestation. All of these things put together will restore the biodiversity, their solution to biodiversity loss, and the farmer will not be losing. The idea that farmer wants to get an enhanced crop production and they embark on using chemical fertilizers. You may not necessarily need chemical fertilizer in this sense. If all of these things are in place, your crop will still come to yield as much as possible. I embark on the project. I intercrop the sunflower with maize, and the production I had was ×3 of what I would have gotten if it was just only sow maize, that is monocropping. And I did not have any fertilizer. The production I also had was ×2 of when I used fertilizer on that crop. These are what I put in place: planting of leguminous crop, integrated pest management, shallow tilling. In fact, since maize does not have tuber, I needed not to till. So I didn't bother to till, I just planted like that. And of course, I have tree all around, and I needed not to water when it's not necessary. It was when it was strictly necessary that I watered. And the yield I had was fantastic, better than when I applied fertilizer. You can also do the same on your various farms. And you will also testify to what we are saying here. So what is the summary? Agriculture has a positive or negative influence on biodiversity, and its impact on biodiversity is determined by several factors. The practices that we embark on. Agriculture as it is has positive or negative influence, depending on the activities that we do. So another thing is that biodiversity provides a very wide range of services to farmers. Olawumi rightly mentioned the services that biodiversity provided, to farmers. We have regulatory services, we have ecosystem services. Those things, once what we mentioned as the solution to biodiversity loss are in place, you will have the benefit of enjoying the biodiversity services that are obtainable to farmers. Of course, when agricultural practices are intensified, there will be increase in the size of fields, and there will be reduction in rotation and greater use of fertilizer and pesticide. We can manage our land as it is when we embark on those things that will bring about global benefits, the IPM, those things we mentioned. When you embark on them, you will not need to use fertilizer, and you are still going to have an enhanced crop production. And lastly, reducing the impact on biodiversity is firstly a matter of preserving habitats without intervention. If you take note, let me take us back a little. If you take note, what causes biodiversity loss that we mentioned here, all of these things, they have a way of impacting the natural ecosystem. When you use herbicide, they target organisms, they target plants, and the non-targeted plants are affected. And once they are affected, of course, the ecosystem is also affected. You are targeting a weed on your farm, but once you spray your chemical on it, it also affects the other organisms that are on the farm, and the ecosystem is broken that way. So all of these things contribute to biodiversity loss, and they have impact on the nature and the ecosystem, the natural ecosystem. So I'm going to continue from there to sequence 2, which is biodiversity at farm level. Now, on our typical farms, what exactly are we looking at on our farms? The farm that belongs to our companies, the farm that we own personally, what are we looking at when we are on the farm? Are we seeing biodiversity gain there or biodiversity loss? So at the end of...
Hello, Mr. Ayo. Hello, Ayo.
This model, we need to look at domestic and wide. You just have a perusal of it, and of course we know why.
Hello, Ayo. Hello. Can we all hear me, please?
Yes, we can hear you, Benedict.
Okay, thank you. So there's a question on, that was why I was calling Ayo. There's a question from Noble. Because if you are on the Zoom sometimes as the facilitator, you might not see the chat, or you might not see that someone has dropped a chat. So I was trying to engage him. Noble asked a question, say, how can we engage large-scale farming with shallow? Let me read it. How can we engage large-scale farming with shallow tillage? Also, can water management be guaranteed considering intense rainfall? So the first question is, how can we engage large-scale farming with shallow tillage? Yes, in large-scale farming, yes, you have to use a tractor, you have to plow, you have to maybe harrow, you have to use machinery. But we're saying that you need the person who is mounting that machine has to know that he needs to do it at a minimal level. He needs to be taught very well. He needs to be trained how to do it. There's a how to do it that is not going to have negative impact on biodiversity. But if a person is not taught and is assumed that he knows, that is when we have a lot of this destruction going on. And many people learn how to use the machinery, but from the person that learned it from, it is what the person knows that is also transferring. The person does not know that what I'm also doing is impacting on biodiversity. But like we are on this training now, we are hearing. So we need to be able to say that, measure the disc and say, oh, this is just 2 inches. So when you are going, know that the disc must not go beyond this. You will know when you release it and it's going deep into the soil. You must not go beyond this measure. And then you go gently, very slowly, you're going. So that it's not gathering dust, it's not destructing so much the horizontality of the soil structure. That is what we are saying. Ayo, are you back? Hello, Ayo.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, thank you very much. So like has been stated, we move from there to domesticated and wide diversity. I mentioned earlier that allow me, as mentioned, bulk of it, and we have to assess the level of biodiversity on our farms. So now, once you are able to do that, you are already practicing domesticated biodiversity. When you put all of those things under control, we mentioned that it includes collection and riches of species, subspecies, races, varieties, domesticated by animals, humans, and subjected to artificial selection. So that is what we mean. And in doing this, specialists have discovered that when you choose carefully, you'll be able to manage a biodiversity kind of a thing in your area when you choose them carefully. Take for instance, you have a vegetable farm, you have a poultry farm. Your poultry, they are by the side. Your vegetable farm, they are by the side. You gather the poultry droppings, you compost them, you put them on your vegetable side, on your vegetable site. Of course, what happens to your crop? There is growth and there is enhanced production as far as that garden is concerned. So domesticated farming, domesticated biodiversity has a lot to do with a careful selection of species, and you are in charge of them. You don't choose what we impair biodiversity in your environment on your farm. You choose those things that will add value to your biodiversity. So I'm going to go to the next one, which is wide biodiversity. In wide biodiversity, you don't really have control, or you have a minimal control. But in real sense, you don't have any control over it. Take for instance, when you go into the thick bush, where you have the wild animals, they are the ones that are choosing what they eat there. They locate their food by themselves. But what we do is that we leave the wild biodiversity the way they are, but deforestation now has already affected biodiversity in the name of trying to expand farming. That is the case of deforestation. So that is the way we impair wild biodiversity. And this wild biodiversity we are talking about, play many roles, which include maintaining of ecosystem, which include oxygen production, carbon sequestration, temperature regulation, and many other things. So when we impair them, when we cut down trees, we eventually into farming, into wild, of course, biodiversity will be impaired. Now, I wanted to ask us that we should mention examples of domesticated biodiversity and example of wild biodiversity, but our time may not be able to allow it. But let me ask, is anyone practicing domesticated biodiversity, maybe in our houses or on our farm, on the company farm? Is anybody practicing it? I don't know what domesticated biodiversity is. Is anybody going first now? Let me start calling names. Can I call okay, let me call Chido Matewa. If you are hearing me, Chido Matewa, can you give us an example of domesticated biodiversity? That is what you practice in your domain, on your farm, on the company farm, at your home. So can you give us an example?
Okay, my network was on and off, so okay, I guess maybe I'll just give you from general knowledge.
Okay.
Domesticated today, what I can come up with? Plant or animal, any.
Yeah. Any
Hello?
of them at all.
I can give an example of either a plant or an animal.
Any of them or both.
I think chickens.
All right, let me move to, no problem. You can think about it. I will say come back to you. Let me go to Boswell. So do you have any example of domesticated biodiversity?
Yeah, I'm still trying to digest the notes. I was trying to take some pictures and writing the notes. But I think you're talking about a wide range of natural resources, including plants, animals, and other things. But I can hardly think of an example. I'm understanding the concept, but I'm failing to come up with an example. Maybe what we are seeing on the farms, I'm failing to relate it with the presentation.
All right. So let me quickly mention that.
Or maybe I can say, oh, sorry about that.
Biodiversity. Okay. Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you, please.
Okay, what I wanted to say is like we grow wild berries.
Okay.
Berries which used to grow in the wild.
Okay.
But now we have taken them and we are propagating them.
Good. All
so
right.
Can that be an example?
Oh, good. That's a good one. Is another person mentioning any other example? Is any other person mentioning any other example? Okay. Maybe I should call Timothy. Is Timothy there? Is Timothy there? All right. Let me appreciate you for your contribution, everyone that has spoken. Just like Chindo rightly said, you can harvest some kind of species of crop from the wild and you cultivated them in your domain. You have already domesticated that. You can also add animal. Like in Nigeria, we have a piece of land where you do animal husbandry, and at the same time you plant on that land. You know, the animal feeds on the crop, and at the same time, their dogs also serve as a manure or compost, as the case may be, for the animals to grow. For the crop to grow. And they are serving, both animal and plant, they are serving themselves on the farm. So the reason for assessing biodiversity on our farm, number one, is for regulatory aspects. So what do we mean by regulatory aspects? Like we rightly mentioned that biodiversity as it is, once it is lost, it affects everyone. Whether you are the one doing it or you're not the one doing it. Once biodiversity is lost, it affects everybody. We have heard about climate change. That is one of the major reasons. We have heard about global warming. It's one of the main reasons why this training is coming on board. We just want to say that everyone is biodiversity compliant. Everyone is well informed about biodiversity loss and the reason why we are doing this training. So you will understand that for regulatory aspect of it, there are so many laws that are put in place about what to do and what not to do. We have advocates in some places where they have decided that the use of synthetic synthetic chemicals, systemic chemicals is abolished because of the impact it has on the ecosystem in that area. So that is just one of the regulatory aspect of it. Of course, we also have the image of the producer, the marketing asset. A company that is into production and is affecting the production they are engaging in is affecting every other thing in the system. Take for instance, a company, so to say, that is into or that is into oil production. Let me just use as an example. And they are producing the oil, the crude oil and the carbon monoxide as the waste gas, the exit gas. The whole environment is contaminated that way. So that's one of the reasons. The image of that company that is not taking recognizance of that, of course, will be damaged in a way. You can always point at that company that company is responsible for the biodiversity loss we are having in this environment. We have a case of oil spillage from some environments where production of crude oil are made. There is spillage from that environment to the local, the fish farming in that locality, and the fish, they are all dead. And once the fish are dead, the marketing aspect is affected. The people that are into marketing, marketing the fish for people, they don't have any other business they are doing. Their business is affected. And also, even if the fishes are not dying, what happens to people that are consuming them? The fishes, of course, will be contaminated for consumption, and that will be a big issue. Of course, another reason is that requirements of the agri-food sector. Requirements of the agri-food sector. What are those requirements in agri-food sector? What are those things that are required there? We have the case of demands, and we have the case of food quality. Once biodiversity is lost, there is a problem. You have the case of mycotoxin mycotoxin contaminated products. It is in such a way that some organisms that are resistant to pesticide, so to say, when we apply pesticide on a piece of land, some organisms, the crop becomes resistant to those things, and they grow like that. And once people eat them, it become a poison to them. So for that sake, we put biodiversity we place it in control so that it can be well managed, and there won't be a problem in the nearest future. You'll be hearing of, like, in previous years, in 50, 60 years, there are no cases of cancer. In 50, 60 years, there are no cases of deadly diseases. But now, as we speak, there are cases of deadly diseases. It is because biodiversity has been lost. And, these are many other reasons why we are putting biodiversity in place, so that when they are well checked, the future will be secured. And also we have the agronomic functional biodiversity. Those things put together will make, the environment to be conducive for every living thing to survive, and the future will also be secured. So in summary, we have diversity of species, where we have wide diversity and exceptional biodiversity, leads to bustard, then ordinary biodiversity, where you have the carabid beetle, olive fly, earthworms, and the cornflower. I know earthworm is quite common on our farms, and anywhere you see earthworm on the farm, it shows that place, that farmland is fertile, because earthworm helps in aeration of the soil and many other things that time will not permit us to continue to mention. Then we have domesticated biodiversity. We have the case of rearing animal boundary, like I mentioned, and you combine it with crop production. You just domesticate them in a piece of land, and before you know it, both of them are serving each other, and the person domesticating them, have an enhanced production when it comes to crop, and once it comes to the case of animal husbandry. Now we move to sequence 3. So to what extent and the precision level do we assess biodiversity on our various land? To what extent do we assess biodiversity and precision, on our land? At the end of this, we know we know biodiversity at in the spatial scale, and we also know the biodiversity at on the temporal scale. Now, number one key point we must understand is that biodiversity assessment is limited to certain organisms, selected based on their importance and relative ease of assessment. On a piece of land, you will not be able to capture every organism on that land. You won't be able to capture them. So that is one reason why when you are assessing biodiversity, you limit it to some selected organisms. Take, for instance, maybe earthworm. Take, for instance, a particular crop, a particular plant growing on that land. You limit your, the assessment to those ones that you can vividly see, because you won't be able to capture everything. And secondly, agricultural practices should be examined closely enough to assess their impact on wild and domesticated biodiversity. So let's see, at spatial scale, what are we seeing? On the farm, you have a compartment. You have horizontal and vertical. On the horizontal, you have the hair and the saw. Those are what are on the horizontal farm. Just imagine a kind of farm, and the components, the compartments on that farm, they are just two: the hair and the soil. The soil that on which you're planting, and the hair that is around that environment. Those are the components on the farm. Then from there, you have the individual cultivated cultivated plants on the farm, on the soil, as the case may be, or the cultivated land. You have the cultivated plants, that the ones you plant yourself, the land that you cultivated yourself, they are there. And of course, you have the semi-natural and natural ecosystem. What are the semi-natural and natural ecosystem? Semi-natural are the kind of ecosystem whereby you planted some of it, some of the plants there. You planted them, but the majority of them, they were not planted by you. I will cite an instance. Look at a piece of land where you grow cashew crops. Of course, in a thick bush. If you look at it closely, you realize that on the other side of the farm, where you don't plant, some other things are there, where you don't cultivate at all. Some other plants are there. Those are the natural. And the ones you now planted, they are the semi-natural. They are the one that is forming the semi-natural ecosystem. And of course, we have the outside areas around the farm. So within your farm vicinity, those places that you did not cultivate at all, that you left fallow, that you left without any activity, those are what make up the horizontal compartments of your farm, and those are what we refer to as a spatial scale. Of course, on the spatial scale, if you look at the picture closely, may I know if you can see the screen? Can you see my screen?
Yes, please.
All right, thank you.
Yes, please.
Oh, good. If you look at it very well, all right, I'm trying to expand the screen. If you look at it, we have the extent and precision assessment at the horticultural farm, where we have fruit and vegetable. Those are the things you want to, you are considering. And if you look from the left, you will see a forest. You will see a maize field. You will see a maize field. So you will see a maize field. On the maize field, you understand that there is a river beside the maize field. From the river, the river is a natural ecosystem. Okay. Then you have a semi-natural cultivated, which is the tree. Then of course you have the tomato. Can you all see the tomatoes here?
Yes, please.
All right, from the tomato, you have the hedge that allow me rightly mentioned. Then you have the strip. Then you have the okra field. Then you have the grassy strip. That is the way. Then you have the grassy strips. From the grassy strips, from the grassy strips, you have the edge. Then from the hedge, you have the orchard. You know, you see the trees planted there. Then you have the meadows. Then you have the animal grazing. From there, you have the natural ecosystem, which are the outside farm outside of the farm. You know, from the semi-natural cultivated area to the semi-natural cultivated area before the natural, you will see that those are the farm that were cultivated, and they were cultivated around the pond, you know, around the rivers, and you also have the trees, the orchard tree that you planted. So those are the ones that form the bulk of the compartments on the farm. This is a typical farm that is run on a spatial scale. Now, to a temporal scale, from temporals at different times, you know, because of the weather condition where you have the wet, you have the dry season. Those, you know, there's a way they affect what grow on your farm per time. So it is assessed on different time of the year. And of course, the life cycle of the taxon must also be studied. That is the occupants of the land of the plants on the piece of farm. They must also be studied. So for the from the spatial scale, you have the way we arrange our croppings, our cultivated lands. From there, you move to the temporal scale, and that one is solely dependent on the the plants that are growing because of the weather system, the weather that control the area. Talk about the dry season and the wet season. You know, when you have a rainy season, several plants grow, particularly those ones that need enough water to grow. And
Hello, Mr. Ayo, we are losing you. Hello.
You will not have those plants. It's only those that will grow. And you see, just like our scale, look at the cultivated area. Please. Can you still hear me? Look, can you hear me? You can hear me? Can you hear me, please?
Yes, we can hear you, but it was breaking.
All right, my sincere apologies. So you have the cultivated areas. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
All right. So we have the cultivated areas, we have the natural areas, you have the semi-natural areas, and you have the natural areas and unexploited areas. If you see the arrow vividly, you will see that for cultivated areas, you have the complete domesticated biodiversity, you have the partial wide biodiversity, you have the impact of cultivation practices. Okay. Okay. Then for also on that cultivated land, when it has to do with plants, you have the wide biodiversity near the plant. Those are the things I've explained earlier. So let me move to the next. So the summary of sequence 3 that we have mentioned, the extent of biodiversity assessment on our farm is that agroecology production system improve domestic biodiversity by promoting the association, you know, between livestock and plant production, proposing spatial and temporal crop management techniques, and giving space to local species and heritage varieties. So as we have mentioned, spatial assessment of biodiversity on our farm is very good. And of course, the temporal is what we normally do basically on the weather system. But the spatial one, irrespective of the weather, when you carefully select the plants you are planting, and you also leave those natural habitats intact, you leave them intact. Once you leave them intact like that, you are sure that you are protecting the biodiversity, and you are protecting biodiversity system. And on Thursday, we're going to indicators, those things we are going to be seeing on the farm, and they will serve as indicators. So with this, I've come to the end of what we have to discuss today. And number one thing we need to note, those practices that are not suitable for biodiversity gain on our farm. So those practices that impair biodiversity on our farm. We mentioned the use of herbicide and pesticides. We mentioned the use of systemic pesticide. We mentioned several other things. We mentioned the case of intensification of farming. We mentioned herbicide use. We mentioned soil tillage and mechanized farming, which allow me also expatiated on. So once you are able to consider those things as they are, of course, you are going to be encouraging biodiversity gain. And while you are measuring biodiversity on your farm, the extent to which you can measure it is limited to the kind of plants, the kind of organisms on your farm. They are very, very selective, because you will not be able to measure all the organisms on your farm, all your plants on the plants on your farm. You will not be able to measure all of them. So you just carefully select them. This particular plant grows always. Let me see the number of them that are growing on my farm. I remember last week, Chindo rightly mentioned that there are some specific plants that you grow on your farm that serve as a sign for soil fertility. You will know that soil is very, very fertile. So those are the kind of plants you can measure on your farm to see that, okay, with these plants, once they are growing, we can use them to measure the extent of biodiversity on your farm. And of course, we rightly mentioned that if you look carefully at the way you plan your farm, you do not completely destroy a natural ecosystem. Do your farming within a forest, cultivated alongside with trees, cultivated alongside with leguminous plants or vegetables, cultivated alongside with tuber crops, as the case may be. You don't just focus on a particular kind of plant, and you don't just deforestate everywhere. The lands around you, you will be affecting biodiversity. So I want at the junction to ask if there is any question. May I ask if there is any question? May I know who will bear the cat now? I think Noble have not spoken for some time. He hasn't spoken today. So may I ask Noble, do you have any question on the session we have just taken? Is Noble talking? Is Noble speaking?
Noble's microphone is kind of bad, so he's typing to respond.
Okay. We'll be expecting what you have to say. Okay, Mikias. Is Mikias there? Okay. What about Daniel?
Hi, for now, I don't have any question.
Okay. May I know what you have gained so far?
Repeat, please. I've not heard you clearly.
Okay, may I know what you gained? Can you just mention one or two that you have gained?
I would say for today, I've gained to understand the difference between domesticated and the wild biodiversity in terms of the different crops that we have brought into the system, which are now considered as domesticated, and also the animals that are in the farming system that are domesticated. Because I think the first assignment in the exercise 1 was requesting for mentioning of some of the specific biodiversity in the farm. So I would say, like for me, I didn't mention the crops among the plants that are domesticated. I only mentioned the trees and the other things. I think it's more clear to me.
All right, thank you very much for that. Okay, is Timothy Odeyale there? Can you just mention in 30 seconds what you have gained?
Yeah, morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, basically, I've gained a lot today, starting from a shallow tillage structure of not destroying biodiversity. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm following. Okay.
Yeah, so the zero tillage, and that's the major aspect of actually.
Right. That's very good. All right. So I want to appreciate you for. Okay, let me appreciate you for your commitment so far. All right, I'm going to hand over to allow me while I unshare my screen now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ayo, for today's session. We're bringing the live session to a close very soon. And thank you all for participating in today's session. Noble says that I want to read your question, Mr. Noble. I need for clarification on horizontal and vertical biodiversity. Wow. We have 8 minutes and we need to go through the tab. So can you type the same question on the group chat, our group chat, and then we will answer it on the group chat and we'll explain further on the difference between horizontal and vertical biodiversity. Thank you very much, so that we don't exceed our time and then we don't, everybody has so much to do. Today is Monday. So permit me to share my screen. I'm just going to run through quickly with us what we have to do this week on our tab. Those, if you wake up this morning, as early as this morning, you'll see the message that I've sent to us on the activities that we've done in week 1, from the introductory tile and to week 1. And I've been able to specify the activities that we have not done. Like I mentioned in the message, when you do any of those activities, when you click on them, when you open them, is recorded at the back office, at the back, the e-learning platform. And so we are able to know that, oh, this person, for example, Mr. Chinedu, has opened this Chrome, and then, oh, he has gone through the PowerPoint presentation again, or he has downloaded it. So it helps us to keep understanding what we've talked about, because there are lots that we cannot talk about in this 1.5 hours that we have for the live session. So if you go to the e-learning platform, you see that week 2, the restriction has been removed first, and then you can navigate through week 2. And when you open it, this is what you will see. You will see the objective of the module, which Ayo has shared with us, and then instruction about the module. You see also, you click on, you see where my cursor is, you click on module 2 overall instruction. When you open it, you see the overall instruction for module 2, which will help you to navigate through the entire tab. Then when we come to course material, please, are you seeing my screen and my cursor?
Yes, please. We can see it.
Okay, good. The course material and activity. Yes. Then under the course material and activity, you see this where my cursor is, this yellowish diagram. That is what I call the scroll in the messages that I sent to all of us. This is the scroll. The same thing you will see in week 1. So you need to click it open and then you download the material for that week, which can help you in attempting the assignment, which also gives a further reading, understanding to what we have discussed in the live session. Then the PowerPoint, this is the PowerPoint. Mr. Chinedu, I am coming to you 1 minute, please. This is a PowerPoint that has been shared with us, and then we can read more, we can understand more, we can download it and also use it to educate even those that we work with. Then this is a mini question that you first of all have to answer when you have gone through the Scrum, when you have answered, when you have looked at the PowerPoint, which also is what we shared today. You click on the mini quiz and you answer the mini quiz, very short. Then the relevant support videos, you need to watch the videos. Any of those activities, once you click on it, once you open it, it will tell us that you have done that. Sorry. In the meantime, Mr. Chinedu, you have a question before I go on. Can you please unmute yourself and answer your question?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. I received the message you were talking about earlier this morning.
Okay.
But I have some questions and maybe complaints per se. There are some of the things you highlighted. I have done them. I have done a few of them. For instance, the definition and the importance of biodiversity. I've done that. I did those stuff on Friday. Also, the PPT documents you were talking about, I've also downloaded it on Friday as well. So, and I saw some of those things, I was like, maybe something maybe I'm not sure about. But I know I've gone through some of this. I've not attempted the quiz yet, but a few of these things I have.
Okay. Sometimes if your network is not very strong, while you're doing that and the network is breaking, it might cut off. You understand? So all you need to do is go back on it, click it. And once you have a time where you have a strong network, just click it, open it, and then it's automatically recognized that you have opened it. That's something that happens sometimes when our networks are not very strong. So sorry about that, but please just go back to it, open it like you've done it before, just open it, and then it clicks the message back to the back office. Then, like I was saying, for Module 2 homework and exercise, we have 2 exercises that we need to do in Module 2. When we click on them, it takes us, if I click on it now, we see, can we all see my screen? This is the exercise, and then we can download them, and then we can answer them like we did in week 1 for those who have done theirs in week 1. Then you can answer them and upload them back into the system, and then it will be marked, and then we will have our reports. Then you do the same thing for exercise 3. Then we move on to what do you learn from this week? I realize that most of us have not done this exercise. So we need to put what we have learned at the end of the week. We need to put what we have learned. For week 1, we need to go back there and type what you have learned in week 1. So you click on add a new discussion and then type what you have learned and save it there. Then we will see what you have learned. I am coming, Mr. Chinedu. Let me just round up, then we have room for question. Then the last one is test your knowledge on understanding. Test your knowledge. We need to test our knowledge. This is the overall test for the whole week. Some people have done theirs in week 1, some have not done. Please go to your week 1, finish the workload for week 1, and then start the work activities for week 2. Like I said in my chat to us, that please endeavor to do as much as. That's why in the introductory meeting that we had, I explained to us that we are going to spend 6 hours. So you need to dedicate 1 hour per day. If you dedicate 1 hour per day, you'll be able to go through all this work in 6 days. So don't leave it like, oh, I can do it on Friday. Before you know it, other things will crop up. And before you know it, this is already week 2. Week 3 will just come in. Week 4 will come in. And that's the end of the course. And we want every one of us to finish the course and finish well. So please endeavor to take your time and spend 1-2 hours and just look at all these activities and do them. Once you attempt the test and you finish it and you submit it, then I can't do it because I'm not a participant, a trainee. So I can't show us how it will look like. But once you click it and open it, you attempt the test and then it takes us through. So that is the work activities that we have for the entire week. And I hope that we will be able to finish. We have started on a good note, and I hope that we'll be able to finish this week activities by the end of the week. So, Mr. Chinedu, you raised your hand the other time again, and I said I was going to let you speak again. Any question from you?
Sorry, that was a mistake, sorry.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. So any other question from anybody? Anyone before we call it a day? Any other question, please? Okay. If there are no further questions, thank you all for coming to today's session. If you have any question, please feel free to send it on our group page on the WhatsApp. We will answer your question accordingly. If you need any clarification, please, before you attempt, if you are attempting any of the assignment and you need any clarification, just drop the message. We will answer your question and give you guidance on how to solve it. And if you want to do it backstage, you want to private chat, that is also welcome, and we will answer your question. At this stage, we want to call it a day today, and hopefully on Thursday we'll all meet by God's grace, and then we'll have another session for week 2. Thank you all for coming, and please do have a pleasant and fulfilling week. Goodbye for now. Bye, everyone.
All right. Bye-bye. Have a nice week.
Bye. Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.